Also with us, Lauren Leader, CEO and co-founder of All In Together, a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization centered on the civic education of women. Her new piece for Know Your Value is titled "The Role We All Play in Keeping Sexism Out of Presidential Politics." So, Lauren, thank you, first of all, for writing this piece for Know Your Value. What are some of the things outside of, Donald Trump's blatant, obvious sexism and things like that, but maybe more subtle ways that everybody makes mistakes?
Well, right, and I think that's the point of my piece. I wholeheartedly agree with Tina, and you and I have talked about this before. We talked about it last year. The data that showed that the coverage of the women who are running for president were receiving consistently more negative coverage, or sort of the neglect of just less coverage overall. And we talked last year about the double entendre, the negative double entendre of the word ambition, which has, of course, come back over and over again. The media does have an issue. Remember that women and especially women of color remain dramatically underrepresented in newsrooms, in print, television, and digital. And so their voices get overlooked. And I think that's part of why, the headlines Tina pointed out are so obvious in a way. Had there been more women on those news desks, we might not have had those kinds of headlines. But the issue now is that this goes way beyond the media. The media has a critical role to play, but so does every individual. And the point that I made in the piece is that we're all accountable. When the George Floyd protests erupted all around the country, we had millions and millions of white Americans who began to look really deeply at themselves and ask the question, am I reinforcing or repeating inadvertently racist tropes that are holding all people back? My point in the piece is we now need to do that about gender. We all need, including women, need to look at the biases that we hold against ourselves and against others and start to disrupt it. In just the last few days, I heard things like she slept her way to the top, and she's the angry stuff comes up over and over again. Nobody really likes her. Stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not she's qualified. And the last point I'll make, Nika, this is not about partisan politics. This is not about Kamala Harris. I say very clearly in the piece, Carly Fiorina, when she ran for president, endured hideous sexist attacks. This is not new. This is not partisan. This is about creating a better future for all women, for enabling all of us to be successful without being held back by things that have nothing to do with our capability and our qualifications for the job. And we need to check each other on this. Well, I'm glad you raised that. And, I have to just add one thing, because Tina was being also modest. One of the things that the Trump administration did was they eliminated the White House Office of Women and Girls, which Tina ran, which actually was focused on elevating women and girls in American society. So it's more than just words. Look, I think that what are the magical things that's happened in the last 30, 40 years? And, next week is the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote, of suffrage, even as Black women were left out of that win for many more years. The reality is that women have risen in American society in extraordinary ways. They're the majority of the college degree earners. 48% are primary breadwinners. They are performing exceptionally well academically, but then they are not rising and not breaking the glass ceilings which still exist in almost every domain and discipline. And I think when we think about young women and the messages we give them, we need our entire society focused on ensuring that young women of color, young women, all young women, women of less means, women of more means, understand that they will have to work hard to push the doors open. But, we have our back. It's got to go more beyond the presidency. It's got to go beyond this race. We need to have all women's backs. We need to be supportive of women in all of their ambitions. And that is an entire society that needs to commit to that. It's part of why it's so essential that this be about the media, but more. The president has already lost incredible levels of support from women, Republican, Democrat, Independent. He's lost them in historic numbers. This is way beyond the president. This is about who we are as a society. And we have an opportunity now and always to say, in this 100 years after suffrage, we are going to ensure that there are no barriers to any woman's achievement, to any woman's ambition, and we're all in.
Tina Chen and Lauren Leader, thank you both very much for being on for this important topic.